Well, hello, boys and girls. It's Mrs. Coli. I hope you're having a great day. Today, we're going to be learning about some important writing skills. These are the types of things that you need to know in order to become a very literate person, or what's called to have literacy. Literacy is both being able to read and also to be able to write and be able to express yourself in thought and word. So the first thing we're going to do is let's give you a little bit of a test to see if you know how to form a sentence. So what I'd like you to do first off is to look at this beautiful flower that you see on your screen and be able to think about a sentence that you would use to describe that flower. Go ahead and do that for just about 10 seconds. And then when you're done, go ahead and turn to a neighbor and do a think, pair, share, or a turn and talk, and see how your sentences compare. I'll be back in just a few seconds. Have fun. Well, hello again, boys and girls. I was listening in, and I can tell we had a lot of great writers. We have a lot of great writers in this class. So I want to thank you for using your time wisely and getting excited about writing. So some of the sentences that I heard were such things as the flower looked beautiful. That's good. The flower looked beautiful. That's a forward sentence, and that's a sentence. Or maybe some of you said, on my walk, I saw the most beautiful medium-sized flower, period. It had a soft, sweet fragrance, period. There's two sentences. The petals were so soft and delicate when I stroked them with my fingers. So we're getting a lot of sentences here. And then you can say, when the wind blew, the flower swayed back and forth. And it made me happy as I looked at it. Okay, that would be another sentence. So those are a lot of sentences to maybe describe how you felt when you were with that flower. But again, it could have been as easy as the flower bloomed. The flower bloomed. So that's a sentence too. It's just not as descriptive as some of the ones that I shared with you. But you're on your start. You're on the start to being a great writer. So let's learn more of the skills so each of us can be great writers. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about the parts of speech and the different types of sentence structures. Let's begin. But before we begin, a quick quiz. How many parts of speech do you think that there are? Show me with your fingers. Do you think 4? Do you think 2? Do you think 5? Do you think 10? Do you think 20? What do you think? Show me. Oh, wow. Some of you said 8. You are correct. Let's take a look at each one of those individually. So these are the words that make up our parts of speech, and there are 8. The nouns, the pronouns, the verbs, the adjectives, the adverbs, the prepositions, and the conjunctions and the interjections. Looking at these, show me with your hands, how many of those parts of speech do you already know? Show your teacher. Show me. Show your friend. And it's okay if you don't feel confident. Maybe you only know what a noun and a verb is. So you would show me 2 fingers, because that means you have a lot that you're going to learn in this lesson. And that's okay. That's why we're at school. We're here to learn. So it's okay. Hopefully you know what a noun and a verb is. Hopefully you know what an adjective, noun, and a verb is. Because I'm thinking most of you probably are familiar with those different words. But let's go ahead and further our knowledge and learn some more. So what is a verb? Well, if I was to ask you, I bet you would say it's an action word. Many of us forget, however, that it also tells our state of being. So what is a noun? If I was to ask you that, I know the whole class would say, oh, it's a person, place, or thing. And I would give you 2 thumbs up for that. You are absolutely correct. What is an adverb? Now it's getting a little bit tricky, isn't it? Well, I notice adverb has a verb in it. So we know that it has something to do with a verb. Well, it tells how an action occurred. So yes, it tells how that action that happened as the verb is going to tell a little bit more information about that. It modifies the verb, or tells how quickly it was done, or how slowly, how carefully, or when it was done, and those kind of things. Well, what's an adjective? And I bet most of you would say, well, Mrs. Coley, it describes the noun. And I would say, you are absolutely correct. But did you know it could also describe the pronouns too? It would be things that talk about the size, the color, the weight, the number of things. Those are all adjectives. So what is a pronoun? Well, as we look at the nouns and the pronouns, we know that they are very similar because they have the same parts of the word that are the same. They both say nouns in them, right? So we know it has something to do with a noun, but it's used to replace a noun. And we'll talk a little bit more about those in a minute, but it's such words as it, I, and them. So what are prepositions? Well, prepositions describe relationships or locations, and we'll talk more about those. Those are words like on, over, for, and beside. What are conjunctions? And I bet most of you would know what a conjunction is. Those are those small little words like and, or, because that combine two simple sentences together with a comma and with a conjunction. So what are interjections? I don't know if most of us would be able to define this term. However, many of us use this all the time as we speak to each other in our spoken word, and we also like to use it too in our written word. It's when we use words of surprise, such as wow or oh my. So now, how many of you know most of the parts of speech? Look at the list and show me with your fingers how many out of those 8 do you already know. I bet most of you have at least 5 fingers up right now. It was just a review, wasn't it? Well, let's study a little bit more detail. What are nouns and pronouns? As we know, nouns are person, places, and things. We know that there are proper nouns and common nouns. Proper nouns name the person, place, or thing. And a common noun is just a general word that relates to something. A proper noun would be like the name Mary. A common noun would be just like an apple. It's just a regular thing that we see that isn't specific. So proper nouns would be like the name of your state, the name of your city, the name of your country, the name of the month, the name of your favorite grocery store, Walmart or Smith's or Super Target. They all have something in common. Proper nouns always require what? That you capitalize the first letter in their name. Good. Common nouns don't capitalize. Then we also have singular and plural nouns. Singular means one. Plural means more than one. Like in our class, I have a heart. But as we look at all of the students in our class, we have a lot of happy hearts because we use an attitude of gratitude every day, don't we? So notice one heart has no S, but many hearts has the plural S. As we compare that to our pronouns, you can see that pronouns, they change their form based off of where that word is located in the sentence. If it comes at the start of the sentence, it's called the subject. These would be the pronouns that you would use at the start of a sentence. If it comes at the end of a sentence, it would be referred to as an object or what's called a direct object, and you would use these types of pronouns. Now, if in your sentence you're showing possession or the pronouns are showing possession or ownership of something, like of a pencil, it's my pencil, those are called possessive pronouns. Or your dog, the your is a possessive pronoun, isn't it? Well, pronouns also have singular and plural pronouns. These would be the ways that you would take the heart, like a heart, and change it to it. And so dogs would be an it. Mary would be she. If I was talking about myself, I would refer to me as an I, me, or myself. These are all singular words because I'm talking about one person. However, when we talk about a group of people, these would be the pronouns that you use. You got it? Give me a thumbs up. Nice. Let's move on. So we've talked very briefly about what is a sentence. Well, every sentence has to have, like I said, 2 things. It needs a subject and it needs a predicate. So let's make sure we understand these terms. So the subject is a noun or a pronoun, and the predicate is the verb and all of the other information that follows your verb. Okay, so let's find out, what is a subject answer? So in a sentence, it is the who or the what that the sentence is about. For instance, if we look at this little mouse here, it says the mouse likes to eat cookies and milk. And I know some of you boys and girls like to do that too. So what is the subject? Well, I ask myself, who likes to, so I say this, who likes to eat cookies and milk? The mouse. So the mouse is the subject. See how I just make a question out of that? And then it tells me what the answer is. Well, if I go to a predicate, the predicate is the verb, and everything that follows the verb makes up the predicate. Hopefully you can share that with the neighbor soon, because I'm going to ask that question again. So I would say this, if I want to find out what the predicate is, it's the part of the sentence that says what the subject has or does. For instance, I would say the alligator does what? Notice I use this word, does what? And you would say, well, the alligator eats cookies and milk. So your verb is eats, and this cookies and milk would describe what it is eating. And so this is your predicate. Let's move on. Now we're going to talk about verbs. Verbs are probably one of the most important things and the hardest thing to learn in the English language. This is when things can get a little bit, I hate to say it, but a little ugly. This is when we have to follow some rules. So if we don't follow the rules, it makes it really hard for people to read our writing because we're not spelling things correctly. So a good portion of your spelling tests have to do with understanding these patterns for our verbs. But before we talk about the verb rules, past tense verb rules, we need to go over and just understand again that with verbs, we have action verbs, helping verbs, and linking verbs, and each one serves its own purpose. When we're talking about a subject that's doing something in the past, typically, again, there's rules, typically all of our verbs are going to end in ed. However, there's always the exception to the rules or the irregular verbs. But generally, if you're talking about something that happened yesterday, a month ago, a week ago, just take your regular verb and add an ed to it. If it's happening presently, usually it doesn't have an ending, or it ends in ing, or it ends in like an s. Now, this is all based upon who your subject is, because if it's a singular subject, the verb has different endings here. If it's a plural subject, the verb has different endings here too, and here. Okay, and future tense. How do we notice if verbs are in future tense? They generally all have the word will in front of it. For instance, I will walk my dogs on the path tonight. Or, I will jump on my trampoline tomorrow. Or, tomorrow we will draw pictures about a flower. Or, my dad will pay for my soccer lessons. Okay, so that's all happening in the future. Now let's talk about, well, how do we use helping verbs? Helping verbs help the action verb. So they would be things like, he will be helping me walk my dog. Or present tense, we could say, we are walking to the store. So I use the word are with walking. So notice these are words that you add to an action verb to give it a little bit more detail, doesn't it? It helps that verb. Or yesterday, I'm trying to look at my choices. Yesterday, that's a hard one. I'll have to think about past tense with a helping verb. Yesterday we had walked to 7-Eleven and got a Slurpee. Okay, so you can see I had to stop and think for a minute. But yeah, I would use had, present tense has, or will have. So see how, if I use the helping verb has, you can see kind of how I changed its form as I went from past, present to future. Linking verbs are as simple as describing conditions. I am happy He is happy. We were frustrated writing these sentences. I don't know. Hopefully you're not thinking that, but you can see how I used these linking verbs to help me describe information more in my sentence. Now, we also have these rules, and I'm sure you remember rules where if you have a silent E on the end, you just add the ed to make the word past tense with the ed. Yet if it has an E, you don't add another E. Well, you can drop the E, then add that ed. That's what that rule says. Or if the verb ends with a Y, what do we do if we're going to change it to a past tense? So if it's a vowel and a Y, you would just add ed, like in the case with stayed. It says, does the verb end with a consonant and Y? So that would be like an example would be cry. You would drop the Y and add IED, or in the case with carry, you would drop the Y and add IED. So these are examples. You've already learned these spelling rules. It says, does the verb end with a short vowel and then a single consonant? That's where you would double the consonant, then add the ED. So these would be like your CVC words where it has a short vowel. So you would double the consonant and add ED. Case with bat, that's a CVC word. I'm going to double the consonant, which is the T, and add ED. All other regular verbs, all you have to do is add ED. Okay, and these are examples of what those would look like. Hopefully that makes sense and that was a healthy review. Okay, so the other thing we have to know about verbs is they have to agree with the subject. So if it's a singular verb, if it's a singular subject, then typically it just says add an S. Like Jose or Josie eats too many sweets. Matt listens to music when he runs. So you can see I'm taking my regular verb and just adding an S if it's a singular subject. She practices basketball every day. However, when the subject is I or you, for instance, down here with the word like, you do not add an S to it. You wouldn't say I likes apples. You would just say I like apples. But you wouldn't say likes grapes, but you like grapes. These are singular pronouns, but that's the exception to the rule. We don't add S's to the I's and the U's in our singular, with our singular subjects. This is showing you how you could take first person, second person, and third person and change that with a regular verb and then change it with an irregular verb. I talked briefly about that verbs. There's also irregular verbs. So this is showing you first person using the word jump. You would say, I jump if it happened now. If it happened in the past, you would say, I jumped. And if it happens in the future, I will jump. Does this ring a bell? Okay, this is where we start to forget. We have first person, and you can identify this just by looking at the pronouns or the nouns that the author uses. You should be able to identify what person it's written in. Third person, first person, second person. So let's look at second person right now. Second person always has you attached with it. So this would be like you jump. Present, past tense, you jumped. Future tense, you will jump. Or in third person, this is talking about somebody else. Maybe it's the person way off in the distance. They're on the playground area. And you say, she jumps. Or yesterday I saw that she jumped. Or you're assuming because she likes to jump at recess that tomorrow she will jump. Do you see how that works? Okay. Now let's talk about irregular verbs and what that might look like with first person, second person, and third person. So for present tense, you would say, I see. Notice how our verb now is changing the letters. So we don't just add ed. We wouldn't want to say, I seed him. No, that's silly. We would say, I saw him, or another first person sentence in the future would be, I will see him, or I will see. Perfect. Let's try it now. Second person. Again, we use the you. So you would say, you see, you saw, you will see. Third person is she sees. Notice I add the S. She saw, or she will see. Everybody good? Thumbs up. Okay, so now you know your subject-verb agreement, and you learn a lot about that at school, don't you? Okay, now we're going to talk about what is a simple sentence. And your teacher has spent a lot of time teaching this already. Every simple sentence has a subject and a predicate. And this is an example. The rabbit ate the carrot. That's a statement. It has both a subject and a predicate, so it's not a fragment. That works. But it's very simple, isn't it? Very basic. So we know that a simple sentence is also called an independent clause. Can you say that with me? Independent clause. And what does it contain? What'd you say? Oh, you're right. It contains a subject. What else? You're right, a predicate. What does a predicate have in it? Did you say a verb and anything that follows the verb? Nice job. You just got 100% on my oral quiz about what a simple sentence is and what subject and predicates are. Okay, so it says a simple sentence, also called a what? An independent clause. Good. Contains a subject and a verb and expresses a complete thought. It says simple sentences have no dependent or what's called a subordinate clause. And we'll talk more about these. These are more complex sentences that use these. But for now, we're just focusing on one independent clause. This shows you what it might look like. It says, my friend has a beautiful fish. So our subject is my friend. Our verb is has, but all of this is the what? It's the predicate. Has a beautiful fish is called the predicate. Good. So that's a sentence, and it's a simple sentence, and it's one independent clause. Let's look at our next sentence. It says, my friend and I both have fish. So our subjects here, this is still a simple sentence. It's okay to have a compound subject. Compound subject means you have more than one subject. That's okay. It still is simple because it has one verb or one predicate. So it works. This is another example of a simple sentence. This sentence reads, my friend feeds and watches her fish. This time I have one subject, my friend, but I have two verbs, so that makes it a compound verb because the friend feeds the fish and watches the fish, but it's still a simple sentence. Nice job. Good. Moving on. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit more about adjectives. Well, as you know, adjectives describe our nouns. They use words that reference our five senses. So you would use it as what it looks like to you, what it smells like to you, what it tastes like to you, how it feels to you, and what it sounds like. So as you're describing the noun, those are the things that you're trying to talk about as you describe whatever it is your subject. So it could be color words, it could be size, it could be the number of things or a kind of thing. And this goes into greater detail. So when you're talking about size, you could say it's small, big, enormous, large, or tiny. If you're talking about weather, you would talk about a rainy day or a windy day or a sunny day or a foggy day or a cloudy day. If I'm talking about maybe a taco that I got, maybe at Taco Bell, I would say that my taco's spicy or it's a sour taco, it's a sweet taco or a bland taco or a bitter taco. And hopefully, if you're getting it at Taco Bell, it's more just spicy, isn't it? If it's bitter, I don't think they're going to be in business too long. Okay, good. So those are adjectives. An adjective is used to describe a noun or a pronoun. It can tell us many things. And these are the things that it tells you about your noun or your pronoun. Okay, now we have what's called adverbs. Adverbs describe the verbs, adjectives, or another adverb. Adverbs tell the who, the where, the how, and the how often. When we're using it as a how something is done, then it typically ends in ly. And anytime you see a word that ends in ly in a sentence and your teacher asks you to identify the parts of speech, always choose that as an adverb. That is something that should immediately be a red flag to you that these words are adverbs, because adverbs do end in ly. And it says that here, many adverbs end in ly. Adverbs can come before or after a verb, such as she quickly walked to the store, or She walked to the store quickly. So what are your adverbs? You're right, they're quickly. So that shows you it's not always in one location in a sentence. You could have it before the verb or after the verb. Now, as we are comparing adverbs and adjectives, we have a positive degree, a comparative degree, and a superlative degree. Say that with me. A positive degree, comparative degree, and a superlative degree. For instance, Alex's dog is big. That is a positive degree. So all you're doing is you're using a simple adjective to describe your noun. So these would be examples of positives. Then if we're going to compare two things only, you would use a comparative degree, such as Sid's dog is bigger than Alex's dog. Now, superlative degrees, you compare 3 or more things, such as Sam's dog is the biggest dog. So when we're using comparative degree, we're going to add ER to our adjective or our adverb. And if we are comparing 3 or more things, then we're going to add EST. It says the most common way to compare things is to add ER or EST to the adjective or adverb. That's what we just said. Now there's exceptions. Again, there's always exceptions to the rules. It says more or most are used when comparing adjectives with 3 or more syllables. More responsible or most responsible. So they're just saying that if you're comparing two things, it's more. If it's more than 2, then you would say most. Adverbs that end in ly would be more loudly or most loudly. So you keep the adverb the same, you just are adding more or most to it, depending on how many things you're comparing. So this shows you what words you would use for. Now, if it's newer, if it goes from new to newer, we wouldn't have to add more or most, right? Because we just add er, newer and newest. Or funny would go to funnier or funniest. Smoothly, again, because it ends in the ly, would say more smoothly or most smoothly. Late would go to later or latest. So sometimes we have to use more or most, but try it first by just adding the er or the est. It says memorize these: good, better, best. So anytime we're talking about the adjective good, then you would want, if you're comparing it to two things, better or best, and bad, worse, and worst. You wouldn't want to say more bad. You don't want to say more badder or most badder or baddest, most baddest person. You would say the worst person. I know sometimes we get confused with that, don't we? That's funny. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about conjunctions. So conjunctions join phrases or sentences together. These are called the coordinating conjunctions, and you use these a lot as a third grader and even as a second grader when your teacher says, hey, today we're going to take those little simple sentences and we're going to join them together with one of our conjunctions. What your teacher was talking about was a coordinating conjunction. So maybe your teacher referred to them as the fanboys. The fanboys would be the small words that link two simple sentences together with words such as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or, what is that? You're right, so. This is showing you what your sentence would look like. These are simple sentences here. So they're to make a compound sentence, which you've done before, is you're going to, it says a coordinating conjunction is used in a compound sentence. You will need to add a comma, which you can see here, before writing the coordinating conjunction. So let's say maybe your simple sentence is we ate dinner. And then another simple sentence would be we played ball. Okay. So you would say we ate dinner. I put a comma here. Then I have to choose which one of these conjunctions can combine my sentences together. Take one sentence and combine it and make two that are hooked together. So we ate dinner, comma. Which one do you think would work? This is supposed to be and, by the way. That one is not and. It's supposed to be and. We ate dinner and, maybe you'd add the word then, which is a transition word, and then we played ball. Okay, so that's an example of, you have to make sure you choose the correct conjunction that works as you're combining these simple sentences together. In a few minutes, I'm going to teach you what a subordinating conjunction is, and that's used for complex sentences. So these will be the words, they're also conjunctions that we'll use as we form a different kind of sentence together. Its structure is called a complex sentence. And so it's going to be bigger than what we see here, but we can handle it because we're going to use words like this to help combine a compound sentence to a dependent clause. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But before we do that, let's talk about, does your sentence have swag? The sentences that you are writing down, you can pull out maybe your science journal or maybe your reading journal and take a look at your sentence and give yourself a little thumbs up or 2 thumbs up or sideways thumbs or thumbs down. Why don't you score yourself for just a minute? Let's take a break and just see, what does your written work actually look like? I'm going to let you do a reflection and figure this out for yourself. So the question is, does your sentence have swag? So swag means as, did you start your sentence with a capital? Or W means, do you write neatly? So if someone says, I can't read your handwriting, you don't have swag because you're not writing neatly. A stands for, are you putting spaces between your words? If someone can't read your words because it looks like it's just one big long word because you forget spaces, then you don't have swag. Or G stands for, do you give your sentences punctuation, or is it given punctuation? If so, my friends, you have swag. Now, if you have been writing compound sentences thus far, you get 2 thumbs up. If you have been writing complex sentences, if you don't know what it means, don't worry about it. Give yourselves 2 thumbs up and 1 big toe up, and we'll stop there. However, if you wrote a simple sentence, remember that's 1 thumbs up if you do it with swag. 2 thumbs up if you can write a compound sentence with swag. And again, if you know what a complex sentence is, then you can give yourself 2 thumbs up and 1 big toe up too. Nice. And I won't ask you the other question because it's pretty advanced, but it's called a compound complex sentence. And if you know what that is, give yourselves 2 thumbs up and 2 big toes up. But if you don't know, I'm here to help you out. Okay, now we've done that fun activity. Let's review what complete sentences are. So it must answer 2 questions. The who and the what is doing it. The who is the subject. The what that it's doing is the predicate. Now, if you were looking at your sentences and you just said stuff like green Granny Smith apple. Okay, those are words, but is that a sentence? No. Or if you wrote something that said healthy, my family, my friends. Maybe you were doing your attitude of gratitude and you just wrote 3 words together. Is that a sentence? No. Those are called fragments. Fragments mean that you only have a subject or the predicate or just a list of words. So, yeah, by now we don't want to just write fragments. We need to take it to the next level and make sure we're including both the subject and a predicate. So now I want you to turn and talk and tell your partner what a complete sentence is and share an example with your friend. And your partner will either give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So what are you going to do? You're going to take turns. One of you is the teacher first and one of you is the student. And the person that's the student, you're going to tell your partner what a complete sentence is right here. That's what a complete sentence is. And then share an example either out of your journal that you wrote that shows that you know what a complete sentence is, or just say something to your partner and they can vote and see if you came up with a complete sentence. So let's go ahead and stop this video for, I'd say about a minute, and let's have you do a little oral quiz on if you know what a complete sentence is. I'll see you in just a minute. Bye-bye. Well, hello again. I hope everybody got a thumbs up or 2 thumbs up from their partner that was listening to them share information about what a complete sentence is. And as they were able to share their complete sentence with someone, I hope everybody knows what that is, because it's hard to move on if we don't understand what that is. So let's move on. I think everybody's got it. Okay, now we're going to review what is a simple sentence versus what is a compound sentence. So a simple sentence contains a subject and a predicate, right? And it expresses a complete thought. For example, the boys went to the park, period. A tip here to remember is that a simple sentence is also called an independent clause, and you've heard me refer to that as an independent clause. We need to remember that terminology because we'll use that as we talk about these more advanced types of sentence structure. Now let's compare it to a compound sentence. A compound sentence contains 2 or more independent clauses, or it has 2 or more simple sentences, because a simple sentence is an independent clause. Clauses are joined by the coordinating conjunction. That would be the words like but, and, nor, or. Those words are for, or so, and all of those ones that we studied just a few minutes ago that make up fanboys, don't they? Right here, the for, and, nor, but, or yet, or so. So this example, we're going to compare these two. This one is just simple. The boys went to the park. That's a good sentence. It has a subject and a predicate. Well, this is when someone's a little bit more advanced at writing. They're going to now combine 2 sentences that can be put together and they make sense. Now, if they don't have anything to do with each other, you don't want to combine just everything. It has to be talking about the similar information if you're going to try to combine them. So now we've got the boy went to the park, which is here, or the boys went to the park, and we're going to join it with they did not go to the zoo. So you have to think about which one of these coordinating conjunctions works with what you're trying to talk about here, describe here. So they chose but. The boys went to the park, but notice I put the comma before the but. Some people like to put it after, and you're going to miss that every time it goes before. Here we put the comma and then the conjunction, comma, but they did not go to the zoo. Got it? Now, another little quiz. You're going to turn and talk. This time you're going to describe how simple and compound sentences are the same and how they are different. And you're welcome, if you'd like to, is to create an example of a simple sentence, and then take that simple sentence and make it a compound sentence for your partner too. If you're like totally into this and you'd like to take it to the next level, go for it. So I'm going to be listening. Go ahead now and share with your partner. One of you is the teacher, one of you is the student, and then just switch. Go. Have fun. Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed doing this activity of talking about simple sentences and compound sentences with your partner. I've learned a lot thus far, and I hope you have too. Next, we're going to add to all of our parts of speech that we've learned thus far and learn what a preposition is. I love prepositions. Prepositions connect our nouns or our pronouns to the rest of the sentence. They're connectors, aren't they? So they share such things as where it's located, what time it's happening, or a direction. For instance, if we're talking about these little rocks or whatever they are, and you're having to describe its location to someone, you would say the purple rock is between the blue and the gray rock. Or if we're talking about a paper clip or something here, you would say the gray rock is above or over the paper clip. If we're talking about this yellow little rock, we would say the yellow rock is below the desk and the gray, fuchsia, purple, and blue rocks. Okay, or you would say the blue rock is beside the table or the desk. You not got this? Well, these are even more types of prepositions that you can use showing position. And I'm not going to take time to do it now, but you're welcome to quickly look at this and just see all of the different prepositions. Are there a ton of them? Yes, there are a ton of prepositions. It says prepositions can tell location of where something is. Notice where your math book is, your pencil is, and your flag is in your classroom. After you write it down, in your journal, share it with someone in your class. So I want you to, in your reading journal, which is both your reading and your writing journal, I want you to tell me where your math book is. Where is it located? Don't just write a fragment. Don't say under the table or under my desk. That's a fragment. I need you to tell me a complete sentence. We've been talking about this. Now show me in writing that you know how to make a complete sentence using a preposition. So I would start my sentence with, my math book is blank, or our flag is blank, or you can say, my pencil is blank. So go ahead and write 3 sentences in your journal, not fragments, but complete sentences showing a location of where those items are in your classroom. I'll give you just a few minutes to do this activity. Have fun. Well, welcome back. I hope you had fun practicing your prepositions and that you were able to come up with 3 complete sentences describing those items that I wanted you to find in your classroom using these words. I left them out so you'd be able to use them and spell them correctly, because I gave you an anchor chart to help guide you with your writing skills. So don't just guess sometimes, just trying to hurry through things. Really take and look and use the information that's presented to make sure when you write a sentence, you have your spelling correct, you've got capitals, you have correct punctuation. So we're just not slopping through this activity. I know you did a great job though, thank you. Okay, next we're going to take everything we've learned and now apply it, which is the fun part of learning. So we're going to review. Let's start with our simple sentence again. What does a simple sentence have? Well, we know that it has a subject and a predicate, right? In this case, it has a simple subject because we only have one subject. In this case, it's not a noun, but it's a pronoun. Good. Now we have a complete predicate because it has a verb and it has some kind of phrase following the verb. In this case, it's a prepositional phrase. Notice the word preposition in that word. The to is a preposition. So if I come back to this screen here, these are prepositions. These are prepositions. They are everywhere in our written work. It shows position, doesn't it? Or location. Where did you go? Well, I went to San Juan. So that's called a prepositional phrase. And this is the preposition, and this is the phrase. It's just a group of words that are connected together, makes up a phrase. So yes, that's a simple sentence. So it's good to be aware as we take our writing skills to the next level, not only are we going to write sentences, but it's good to go back and just decide, okay, kind of go in and analyze your sentences and find the subject, find the verb, find the prepositional phrases, find out if it's a simple subject or a compound subject. Is this a compound verb or a compound or a simple predicate or what they call a complete predicate? That's when it has both the verb and some kind of phrase following it. Then this is what you could do to your own work and maybe take one of the sentences that you've written today and let's see if you can analyze it looking for only the subject and the verb and removing everything else that follows. So this here, okay, we're going to start with these 2 and then I'll talk about this at the end. It says, the boy on the bike did ride to school. So if I want to find only my subject and my verb to find out if this is a simple sentence, what I would do is I'd want to remove everything else. So I'm getting rid of my prepositional phrase. I notice on. Let's see, do we see on? Right here. That's a preposition, isn't it? So I know that's a prepositional phrase. So get rid of your prepositional phrase here. This is a prepositional phrase. This is in is a prepositional phrase. On is a prepositional phrase with what follows. In is a preposition, and this is its phrase. I should word it more carefully. So to is the preposition. That's the phrase. In is a preposition. This is its phrase. So you're just crossing out the preposition and the phrase, and you're identifying S as the subject. This is a simple subject, isn't it? Because there's only one boy. There's not the boy and his sister. So we would have an S for the subject, and the verb here is did ride. Helping verb, verb. Okay, do the next sentence. What is your subject? Well, the puppy would like to stay in the morning. This becomes a little bit more complicated, but as you're trying to identify the subject and the verb in your sentence, find the subject first. It answers the who. The puppy would like to stay in the morning. So you ask yourself, who wants to stay in the morning? The puppy. So that's your subject. Then you're going to say this. The puppy did what? Or the puppy would like to do what? Well, the puppy would like to stay in the morning. So the would like to stay in the morning is your predicate, and your verb is would like. Would, remember, would is one of our helping verbs, isn't it? And like is a state of being. It's not really an action verb, but it's the state of being type of verb. And so to play is a tricky one. You can see that they crossed it off because to play was crossed off because it is a noun infinitive. That is like advanced grammar here. Don't worry about that. It is actually the object of the verb like. So this is the object of like. So you don't need to know that this year, but I'm just showing you why they crossed it off. That's more advanced. You don't need to know what that is, but you do need to know that in the morning is a preposition, and this is the prepositional phrase. I just crossed off my prepositional phrases. Okay, let's look at this sentence and see what's going on in this sentence. In this sentence, we have the book and pencil are on the desk in the classroom. So they crossed off on the desk in the classroom. That's showing location, isn't it? It's just those are both prepositional phrases. But as we're identifying the subject and verb, we have to have a subject and verb to have a complete sentence. The subject answers the who. So who are on the desk in the classroom? We say who or what. In this case, it's what are on the desk in the classroom? Well, this time I would say, well, the book and the pencil, because I have book and pencil, that's called a compound subject, but those work. It's still a simple sentence. These are all examples of simple sentences. My verb is are. That's a linking verb. And all of this is part of the predicate. But right now our focus is just finding our subject and our verb. Good. Moving on. Now I'd like you in your journal to write down an example of both a simple and a compound sentence. If you don't remember what a simple sentence is, you can look here at my example. And if you can't remember what a compound sentence is, go ahead and see how to take a simple sentence and make it into a compound sentence. Go ahead and do that for just a few minutes. I'll see you in just a second. Get that pencil going. You can do this. This is so fun. Well, welcome back. I hope you had fun writing down a simple and a compound sentence. Go ahead and exchange your journal with your neighbor's journal and see if they followed the directions and they wrote down a simple sentence, and then they wrote the sentence one more time as a simple sentence, and they took that simple sentence and they made it a compound sentence by adding a comma and one of our fanboys conjunction words, for instance, and combine two simple sentences together. Show me right now, did your student get it correct? Give them a thumbs up. If they didn't do it, give them a sideways thumbs. And if they only wrote a simple sentence, give them a thumbs down. But at least they got a simple sentence, right? But we're trying to challenge ourselves to make our simple sentences into compound sentences. Some of us maybe are comfortable doing this. Some of us still need more practice, and that's okay. Go ahead and give your friends some kind of a little sticker, a little artistic sticker that you can give them quickly, a happy face or a smart cookie picture showing that they are a good job, smart cookie, or just give them a star, or keep trying. If they didn't quite get it right that first time, just say keep trying. They'll get it, won't they? Okay, the next sentence structure that we're going to talk about is called what is a complex sentence? And this is what I told you about back here. Let's just go back through our slides quickly. Complex sentence. I think it was right here. Nope, not prepositions. I need to go to my conjunction page. It goes back a while. These here are the words we're going to be using now as we talk about complex sentences right here. So we're also going to use these coordinating conjunctions. We're going to use these together. We're going to make up complex sentences. So let's see back here. We've learned all of this today. Wow. We are learning so much at school. Okay, so let's find out what is a complex sentence. It contains an independent clause and a dependent clause. For instance, because the boys went to the park, comma, They did not go to the zoo. Actually, I just realized I made a mistake. What I was talking about is a compound complex sentence because it had a compound. Okay, so forget complex sentences only have let me go back and show you one more time. I don't want to confuse anybody. This gets a little complicated. Okay, so let's try this again. Compound sentences only have coordinating conjunctions. Complex sentences have our subordinating conjunctions. And then we're also going to learn about a compound complex sentence, and they're going to have both of those. Okay, now we've got it figured out. Let's go back to our learning. I know, there's a lot to learn, but it's fun, isn't it? Okay, let's try this again. A complex sentence contains an independent clause, which is a simple sentence, and it has a dependent clause. That means it can't stand alone. It's missing something. So let's take a look at an example. This here is the dependent clause. Because the boys went to the park. If I walked up to you and I said this, because the boys went to the park, would you say, yeah, that is a complete sentence? Or would you say, what are you talking about? Or that is definitely not a complete sentence. That is not an independent clause. Boys and girls, you're right. If you gave me a thumbs down, that is not a simple sentence, and that is not a complete sentence because it doesn't make sense. It's part of something, but it's not complete. Okay, so it's like a fragment. Because the boys went to the park. That's a dependent clause. So we have to link it with our subordinating conjunctions. This is our subordinating conjunction is because. Instead of saying the boys went, okay, so I've got, because the boys went to the park, comma, they did not go to the zoo. And then we have it written, it's the same sentence, but you can take your subordinating conjunction and put it at the end of your simple sentence, and it just changes. It's just a variety. Good writers don't write the same way over and over again. They mix up their simple with a compound, with a complex sentence, with a compound complex sentence, and then it just makes for better reading. So they're saying you can do it one of two ways. Because the boys went to the park, they did not go to the zoo, or we can say it this way. The boys did not go to the zoo because they went to the park. One of the things you have to be aware of, this is really important. If you're going to start your subordinating conjunction, which is because, at the start of a sentence, when it comes to an end, when that dependent clause, this is called a clause, when the clause comes to an end, we need to make sure we add a comma. So important. And then you would have your simple sentence follow it. They did not go to the zoo. However, if you're going to switch the order and start with your independent clause first, or the simple sentence, you would say, the boys did not go to the zoo. Notice, do not put a comma there if you're adding your because they went to the park. So that's an important thing to remember. A lot of times, sometimes I forget, and I like to add commas. I love commas, and I might add something there. But I need to remember commas are not needed when you're using a subordinating conjunction. Tip, look for these subordinating conjunctions. They're going to show you these are all the words that link a independent clause to a dependent clause. They are after, before, because, although, when, since, if, unless, while, so that, even though. Okay, we all good? Now let's look at a sentence to help us. The sentence reads, Bethany might win the prize if she enters the contest. Notice they didn't put a comma there. Even though I like commas, the rule says don't add a comma to that if you're using your subordinating conjunction at the end of the sentence. Something to be aware of is, what's our subject? Well, it's Bethany, right? She's the noun, she's the who. And what's the predicate? The predicate is everything that follows the subject. So it would be might win the prize if she enters the contest. That's all the predicate. What's our verb? Well, you can see here we have might win. Might, we said, was a helping verb. They have it as a modal verb. So that's how you would spell it, a modal verb. And those are verbs that express a possibility of something happening. They are words like must, shall, will, should, would, can, could, may, and might. So it's a specific type of a helping verb that are these words that say that something possibly might happen. You don't need to know that right now, but anyways, they wrote modal, and I thought I probably should explain what that is. And then we know what our verb when is. The subordinating conjunction is the if, which is here, so that's what they chose, no comma. And then she's the pronoun, enters the. You can see that they're using the word the here. They call it a determiner. We'll just know that a determiner is another name for a type of adjective called an article. So I knew that as an article. But again, this is just added information that makes you more accelerated, more advanced as a writer. Let's move on. Okay, this is the last of our 4 different types of sentence structure. It's called a compound complex sentence. So what does that mean? Well, it means that one of your sentences is going to be compound and one of the sentences is complex and they're joined together. So this is the most advanced type of sentences that you can write. So let's take a look and see how we might be able to create these types of sentences. A compound complex sentence has one complex sentence joined to a simple sentence with a conjunction. So it's really, you have one complex sentence and you have 2 simple sentences with a conjunction, because that's what a compound sentence is, right? Example, okay? While Tom reads novels, Jack reads comics, but Sam only reads magazines. Okay, so let's look and see where is our compound sentence. So let's go ahead and remove this part here because I recognize this while as a subordinating conjunction. Remember that? I'll show you just really quickly. Subordinating conjunctions are these. While. Okay, so you have to kind of memorize some of these important things. I know that's a subordinating conjunction, so that makes this, this is the part that's complex, right? Because it has a dependent clause, and I know that these 2 are my simple sentences or my independent clauses. Jack reads comics, Sam only reads magazines. Those are both what's called independent clauses. And I noticed that this is one of my coordinating conjunctions, but, and I have got my comma there because that's what we do when we combine 2 simple sentences. We add the comma because these are combined. So I've got, this is my dependent clause. This is the complex part of it. While Tom reads novels, notice I have to put a comma there too. That's the rule. And then I'm going to just have my 2 simple sentences combined together with that conjunction. Jack reads comics, comma, but Sam only reads magazines. Yay, we did this! Isn't the English language wonderful? Boys and girls, you have learned so much today. I have pretty much put all of your grammar in a nutshell in this lesson. I realize this was a lot to try to take in at one sitting. So if you need to, just go back and watch it in stages as many lessons, because otherwise that's a lot to swallow in one day. Last, let's do a little review about interjections and then everything we've learned thus far. Interjections are fun. This is a great way to end this because I'm going to say, wow. Where's wow? Right there. I'm going to say, wow, you did a great job today. And what am I using when I say wow? I'm using interjections. They express emotion. So I've been saying a lot of interjections in the last couple seconds, haven't I? Because I'm so proud of you. So emotion words would be wow, bravo, ouch, oh no, hooray. Greetings would be hello, hi, hey, yoo-hoo, bye. So anytime you say those greetings, you're using interjections. Or if you are in agreement, you'd say, oh, yeah, no, nope, or sure. Those are all words of agreement, and those are interjections. Sounds would be yikes, eek, ah, yuck, phooey, boom, eek, pow. Those are all sounds, aren't they? Funny sounds. But those are all interjections. So you can see this boy, he is a superhero because he is super at interjections, just like you too. And remember, an interjection is a word that expresses emotions and feelings. Emotions, which are feelings. And then all of these other things too. Hey, yuck, oh no, ouch, and phooey. Perfect. Okay, so now it's time to stop and do a review. In order to do this review today, I'm going to have you get a piece of paper, just a regular white sheet of paper, what we call copy paper, and you are going to be folding your paper 2 times. So you're going to see a fold line of 4. It's going to have 4 parts to it. If we were to talk about fractions, you're going to take one piece of paper and fold it 2 times, and you're going to end up with 4 parts. And then I need you to take your pencil and go ahead and or a marker, crayon, whatever your teacher would like you to use, and just go ahead and go over those fold lines, and you're going to end up with 4 squares on one side, and do the same thing to the back side, and 4 squares on the back side. We're going to use that to do a sort. So this is going to be a parts of speech sort, and this is going to help you for your quiz. So you're looking at all of these words here: did, me, blue, Mary, I, she, and America, no, quickly, in, excellent, on, ouch, but cat, under, kindly, herself. Read with me, please, students. I'm right here. So, what's this word? Want. What's this word? Easy. Good. What's this word? Slowly. Phooey. He. What's this word? Be. House. What's this one? Carefully. Wow. Read it with expression too. Don't forget those punctuation marks. Between, run, or, pen, modern, pretty, now, if. Read it with expression. Gosh. And behind. Your job now is to create something that looks like this. And I showed you, I did 2 of them for you. So you're going to take and write noun, verb, adjective, and adverb on one side, and then you're going to flip the page over and write pronoun, preposition, conjunction, and interjection on the back side. And then you're going to take and you're going to sort every one of these words into its proper home or its proper category. I'm going to give you, let's say, about 5 minutes to do this activity, and then we'll come back and see how you did. You can show it to your teacher, or you can turn it in, whatever your teacher says. Thank you. I'll see you back in about 5 minutes. Bye-bye. Well, welcome back, students. I hope you enjoyed that fun little activity. The last thing we're going to do today is I want you to take everything you've learned and be able to apply this. To do this, I'd like us to look at this tragic picture here. I hope this never happens to you or anyone you know. This is a sad story. This is definitely showing some emotion, isn't it? Emotions of sadness. So I want you to get out a blank sheet of paper out of your spiral. We call them spirals, but it's a notebook, your spiral notebook. Your reading and writing journal. And I want you to write a sentence describing what you see. Try to use all of the 8 parts of speech. Really challenge yourself on this one. It says, remember to begin your sentence with a what? Capital letter, and end with some type of what? Punctuation. Also underline. I want you to underline your noun in your sentence once and your verb in your sentence twice. Or you can put an S for verb and an S for subject and a V for verb, just like I showed you previously. Or you can do just the line system. 1 line means subject, 2 lines means predicate. And what do we always use as a writer? I'm going to write it here because I think some of us might forget. It's very important. What are we trying to use? Oh, wow. There we go. I knew I'd get it eventually. We want to remember to use swag. As you write this, make sure you're following all 4 different skills of a good writer. If you don't remember what swag is, I will show you. Swag is, it's right back here. We need to put this to memory too. If you need to write this in your journal, oh, there it is. Did you see it? Does your sentence have swag? S means starts with a capital. W means written neatly. A means there's a space between words. G means it has given punctuation. So let's see if you're, at the end, do a reflection and see if your sentence has swag. Now I'll come back over here. You're going to look at the picture and start writing. And try to choose which sentence structures are you going to use. Really, if you want to challenge yourself, try this compound complex sentence and go for it. Don't forget your interjections. And last but not least, right here. Okay, so you're going to use swag, and you're going to start you can, if you want to, you can write a little story about this. I can't imagine you describing that picture in 1 sentence. I'm thinking this has got to be at least 4 to 7 sentences to do this picture justice. So anyways, you can make it kind of like a fictional story or some informational text. If you like to write with informational text, you can talk about how thunderstorm caused this, maybe a hurricane caused this, some erosion. Maybe they had forest fires and then they had heavy rainfall following it. But just share sentences with me using at least a simple sentence and a compound sentence. And if you're going to challenge yourself, try a complex. If you're really going to challenge yourself, try a compound complex sentence, which is this here. Compound complex sentence. Using these conjunctions, using these subordinating conjunctions, which are right here. We'll go back. I know I taught you a lot today. Go to conjunctions. So these subordinating conjunctions are the ones that you would use if you're trying to write a complex sentence. And then if you're trying to make a compound complex sentence, you would have to use these and this to make that type of a sentence. Okay. Go ahead and get started. When you're done, you can go ahead and share that with one of your friends, and they can read you theirs, and then go ahead and share what you thought about their story, and identify what parts of speech they used. If you want to, you can use a crayon, like a yellow crayon, and highlight the different parts of speech that you see that your student used, you teachers in the classroom, you. And then you can also write what kind of sentences they use too, and see if they're able to use all 4 different structures of sentences that I discussed with you in this lesson. Well, I hope you had fun learning all of this. I know I did. And I hope that by learning these things, it helps you to vary your style as a writer, and that it empowers you to use powerful words and be able to create powerful thoughts, not only spoken, but on paper. I know you can do it, boys and girls. You're amazing. Until next time, have a great day. Bye-bye.